So welcome everyone, and we'll start as usual with a reading from Emma Fox.
The title is Jesus' Teaching. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Okay. Jesus explains what the nature of God is and what our own nature is, tells us the meaning of life and of death, shows us why we make mistakes, why we yield to temptation, why we become sick and impoverished and old. And most important of all, he tells us how all these evils may be overcome and how we may bring fulfillment into our lives and into the lives of others. Jesus warns us, not once but often, that obstinacy in sin can bring very severe punishment, and that a man who parts with the integrity of his soul, even though he gained the whole world, is a tragic fool. But he teaches that we are only punished for and actually punished by our own mistakes. And he teaches that every man or woman, no matter how steeped in evil and uncleanness, has always direct access to an all-loving, all-powerful Father God who will forgive him and supply his own strength to him to enable him to find himself again. There's a scripture from 1 John chapter 2, verse 29. If you know that he is righteous, you know that every one that doeth righteousness is born of him.
And the Lamsa translation is very similar. If you know that he is righteous, you know that everyone who does righteousness is born of him. And I guess in a sense that reflects what I'm talking about today. The title of the talk is Yogurt, Ladies, and Friendship Benches. And the journey toward this talk began over the last couple of weeks when I've had conversations with multiple people who are feeling scared, feeling hopeless, anxious, helpless about all the turmoil, the anxiety, the hatreds, the wars, and the other toxic, low-energy situations that the earth is going through now. And the folks I was talking with sort of feel paralyzed, like there's nothing they can do to influence what's happening other than perhaps prayer. And two of the people I talked with are in fact praying the rosary, a peace rosary, twice a day. Now I've been thinking about what they're going through, and honestly I've had some of my lift and therapy clients whom I haven't seen for a while call up asking for appointments because they are feeling a resurgence of worry, of anxiety. And this week, it was like the divine was providing some answers, some ideas on what we can do. We do not have to be helpless. We are God stuff. We are part of the divine. And as such, we each have substantial power to change the trajectory of events in the here and now, not only in our lives, but in the broader earth. In fact, Quakerism, and many of you know I am Quaker, believes that every single one of us, because we are of God, is automatically called into the ministry. It is part of our existence that we are to minister to this earth. Now, let's be very careful not to say that that means you need to be standing up in a pulpit and lecturing people or anything like that. Paul himself notes that each of us has ministry capabilities, but they all can be different. So what I'm talking about here is not things that you must do. These are ideas that may give you ideas for additional ways that you can participate in ministering to this troubled land, this troubled earth, this troubled universe that we exist in. The first piece of information that I came across was about what they call yogurt ladies. In the article was about Japan. There's a company. What's the name of it? I keep forgetting. Hold on, let me find the right name. Yakult. Since 1935, it's been making essentially a yogurt drink. And over the years, it learned that the most effective way to market it was home delivery by ladies. But what has happened is that they've become more than just ladies who give you a packet of yogurt once a week. Let me read a little bit from the article. A woman in a neat navy suit and powder blue shirt cycles purposefully down a quiet residential street in Tokyo. It's 8:30, but already balmy, and she's grateful for the matching visor that shields her eyes from the summer sun. She arrives at her first stop, parks her bike, and knocks on the door of a small wooden house with potted plants flanking the entrance. Inside, an elderly lady waits. Her face breaks into a broad smile as she opens the door. She has been expecting this visit. And then the author explains that as families shrink in Japan and traditional multi-generational households decline, isolation has become one of the country's most pressing problems, particularly for the elderly. And sidebar from me, isolation is increasingly becoming a problem in our society. In fact, a fair number of the kids who commit suicide do so because they feel alone, unloved, unsupported. So this Yakult lady now is performing the role of sort of an informal safety net. Each person that they stop to visit and to deliver to, they talk a little bit with. They can talk about the kids, what's happening, how the person's life, and they are also monitoring how well that customer is doing mentally and physically. It was not set up to do this, but that's what has come to be. And the result is, first of all, the company's doing very well because the women who have children pass how important it is to drink this drink onto the kids. The kids grow up drinking the drink and taking delivery, and so it's spread. But the other part is they are part of the social safety net now by virtue of simply once a week stopping to talk with a customer, with each customer. And it is successful enough. And this lady, for instance, the Yakult sales lady, has been doing the same route for 25 years. She's known this old lady for 25 years. So there's a bonding. This is part of the way that the Japanese society is addressing what they call lonely death. Cases of people living alone who become ill, who die, and nobody notices. And if you've been paying attention to the news over time, more and more often, here in town, the coroner every so often puts an announcement in the local paper. Does anyone know of relatives of so-and-so who died alone somewhere in town? This is someplace, this is a need that could be filled here. Not as a yogurt lady, of course, but by being available to people. How else could it be done? There are some organizations who set up sort of foster connections by telephone, online interconnections. I no longer remember where I read about it, but they were talking with a couple of ladies who every morning they call 3 or 4 people to check in on them, to have conversations. They have developed relationships with these people. So these people no longer are alone, are no longer lonely, and there's someone they can turn to and someone who's checking in on them. I'm actually working on a project that sort of addresses this because there are so many people who live alone, who have no family nearby, or who are living with, say, a spouse who has dementia, who have no one to go with them to medical appointments or to surgery. And so I'm exploring setting up an organization where people can actually call in and say, I need someone to go with me, and know that they'll be watched over. They'll be taken care of while they're in surgery, or there's someone taking notes for them. Now, if this sounds like something that interests you either from the standpoint of needing it or wanting to do it, yep, send me an email and I'll put you on our list because we're still in early days of putting it together. But again, this could be a ministry for somebody, for many people, of touching base with people who are alone. Similarly, you could do the same in our county at any rate. There's an organization that recruits adults who serve as advocates for children who are in foster care or have been, one way or another, left adrift by the people who should be the caregivers in their lives. Another kind of ministry that you could do. Shortly after I read about the Yoghurt ladies, I came across first an NPR story and then an article about friendship benches. Started in Zimbabwe, the concept of friendship benches is elderly people who are willing to lend an ear, make themselves available to people who are hurting or need to talk to somebody. Sometimes it's just listening. In this country, they're also trained to offer supportive, we'll call it advice or prompting, to help a person who's in a situation figure out what to do. In fact, they even have that at Arizona State University for the students. Trained elders will sit on benches that have a sign, I'm all ears, talk to me about something. And the students get to talk with someone who cares. Sometimes they're just lonely, sometimes they've got a problem and they need someone to bounce ideas off or just to help them get perspective on what it is. A recent study of a program like that, the Friendship Bench, showed that people who participated in friendship benches, who had depression, 6 months later, only 13% still had depression. Whereas people who went to traditional counseling, 50% were still in depression. The listening ear, the showing of care. What a ministry for those who feel called to it. Now there's also a similar variant I read about in grade schools where they have friendship benches for kids who are feeling alone and want someone to talk to or play with. The kid needs to find a friend, sits on the bench, and some other kid decides to sit down with him. Again, how are we as spiritual walkers, what can we do as a ministry to alleviate this pain? Because so much of this aloneness can lead to horrors such as mass shootings, or just the horror of being in misery. We don't need to have that. And if we can alleviate misery, that brings the energy, the frequency on the Hawkins scale farther up on this earth. And the higher we can lift the frequency of this earth, the more toward peace and love everything is. Now, here's another idea for a ministry that would make someone's life better, or several people's lives. This morning I read just a very brief blip about a woman who, looking for something to do in retirement, volunteers a few hours every week as a babysitter at a shelter for abused women and children. Think about that. Showing caring to already stressed and damaged families, women and children. Think of what it could mean to a woman who has been forced to take full responsibility for child caring while trying to reconstruct a life having fled her abuser and the child's abuser. A very simple thing. The woman wrote, noted in the report I saw, that not only was it fun to babysit the kids and did it feel good to help the mother, but over the time she'd made some really good friendships. Again, overcoming loneliness and enabling someone in an emotionally crippling situation, financially crippling, have an opportunity to regroup, or even to go on job interviews because someone's there to watch the kids. There's actually a movement here in the States to recruit more people of a certain age, such as we are, to activities. It's called the regenerative elder process. And the whole idea is to facilitate elders with wisdom. Because if you will, gender aside, we're all crones here. We're all wise people. We're all spiritual seekers, so we have additional wisdom that many people don't. We've all gone through life, have good perspective. The regenerative elder is a formal way of giving us additional skills to minister to this earth. They say that the idea is to give us new opportunities to support the flourishing of all life now and in the future, and to enable not only self-renewal, but to restore and heal both communities and the world. So these are all things requiring some sort of action on our part, and perhaps a bit of courage to step out. The need is there. Each of us has a calling of some sort. But there's another way to approach it too. If we are more homebound or less likely to be going out, I want to reference something that Edgar Cayce, the son of Edgar Cayce, said some time ago. He said he believed the reason that so many of the catastrophic prophecies that Edgar Cayce made haven't come to pass yet was because so many people were turning to the spiritual path. And thus, by changing the energy, if we're using the Hawkins scale, by raising the energy, by being on the spiritual path, we were changing the trajectory of our future. Now, corollary, Some of you may be aware of the experiment that the Maharishi University in Iowa did. They sent a group of meditators to a small town. I believe it was for a year, where every day they meditated. I don't know for how long, but every day they did their meditation, their transcendental meditation. And over this year, they tracked the crime statistics of the town. The crime statistics dropped hugely. Nothing to keep us from regularly praying, just like the two ladies I mentioned before are praying the rosary for peace every day. So, at its simplest, if you're looking for something more to do to contribute to the building of peace amidst all this turmoil, all this war, all this hatred, all this anxiety, spend some regular time in peace prayer every day. That is a ministry too. One of the less sung ministries, if you will. Is that perhaps your calling? There's a relevant quote that I came across from Edgar Cayce in one of his channeling sessions. If you would have peace, it must be first within yourself. And you must be peaceful and create peace wherever you go and with whomever you contact. I'm going to read it again because I think it's so important. If you would have peace, it must be first within yourself, and you must be peaceful and create peace wherever you go and with whomever you contact. So that sets another bar. If you aren't at peace, do what it takes to bring yourself to more peace. As all of you know, I'm available to do Lift with you. There are many other options as well. Find what it will take to bring yourself to live in peace, as St. Francis did. And then a supportive text from the Christian Bible in the Old Testament, Psalm 27. I have believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And we are here, each of us in a spiritual walk, to see, to claim the goodness of the Lord, to support it, to bring it about, however, within our capacity to do so. And then from the Lamsa translation of Romans, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. And every one of us is called. Every one of us is called to a purpose. And if we're not sure what it is, pray. Come talk with Phyllis or me. Talk with another spiritual guide. Read spiritual ideas. Be open to guidances where you may never have thought of it. But know that even the smallest thing that you do today might make such a big difference in another's life. And as I talk, I'm reminded of my mother who, whatever she was doing, whomever she was dealing with, she always managed to give them a really nice compliment. And as embarrassed as I was as an elementary school kid or a middle schooler, seeing her compliment someone on the street, I do remember seeing them brighten up. And I do my best to follow that example these days myself. So one final thought, suggestion. Each day, sometime before breakfast, ask yourself, What small thing can I do today to serve as a tool for community and connection and comfort of the earth around me? And when you get the inspiration, go do it. So that's what I have to say, folks. Anything that anyone wants to add on, contribute? Liz?
I didn't have anything to add, Brian. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Those are wonderful ideas and very simple and definitely easy to apply to our lives. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Leah, you were next.
When you talk about the Japanese yogurt ladies, there was a movie that came out earlier this year that I did want to take, Phyllis, me and Phyllis to go see it, but with the snow and ice and what have you, it's like, that's, okay. Because what was so interesting from what I understand from the trailer was it was an actor that was kind of like out of a, acting job. He was getting older and somehow I don't know how he got to Japan, but he did. And he was hired to be a rented person. It's called rental family. So, like the grandparents, say they, haven't seen their son in a while, they would go through this one company and hire someone to be their son or even their grandson, depending on the situation. So he would go and be that son that they paid for. And one time he was being paid to be, I think, like a father figure for this young girl. And so did things, and she's telling him her problems and this and that. And that's what it reminded me of. And he had gone doing this because that, oh, I'm not, can't even speak Japanese. I don't know anything about this, blah, blah, blah. Because he was an American actor. And the company's like, oh, that's okay, just, whatever. But by doing that, he ended up becoming a part of whichever family did hire him. He ended up learning more about the culture and, of course, the people that used him as a son, father, whatever was needed. So, with you talking about that, how he ended up. So, I don't know how the whole movie went, of course, because I didn't get to see it. And of course, when it's a good movie like that, they'll keep it in for what, a week or two, and then it's done. And it's like, yeah, you want to keep the horror movies, but not the heart filled ones. So, of course, like it being cold and what have you. So, I'm waiting for the movie to come out to the library because I really want to see that. But with you talking about the yogurt lady, I really want to see this movie to see how he deals with it. Another thing, too, of course, being a veteran, and I go to the VA every week for different things. Well, every Monday, aromatherapy, and then every Friday, what we call Healthy Kitchen. And the thing that is, we are like a community when we show up. There are times it's like, well, I haven't seen so and so. Where's so and so? How's they doing? This and that. So that is our way to stay kind of connected too. And if somebody knows something, saying, hey, yeah, I went through this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I need help with that. Oh, well, just go see them. This is who you could see. Or it's just this and that. And some I see every Monday and Friday, some just Mondays, some just Fridays. But it was interesting because Friday we were there and one of the guys that I hadn't seen for a while, he came in and this other guy is kind of new. He goes, I haven't seen you before. And we didn't introduce whatever, but it's like, oh yeah, that's Don and everything. And I said, most of us here, about half of us here in this cooking class, which is a total of 12 at the most, I said, we see each other, About half of us see each other every Monday and Friday. I said, so to us, we're so used to seeing them that if they are here for the first time, we don't realize it because we're used to knowing them showing up. And so, yeah, and they do have a thing, I think through the website or whatever, called a buddy system. If you have a buddy to call, it's like once a week or however they do it. I don't know because I'm not part of it, but I think it's like the men that have gone, well, through war, what have you, and have an older buddy that they are still connected to because they were in the same unit or whatever, just to see how you doing today. Because you realize, yeah, that's a lot of depression. Those guys. Now, I've been blessed. I have not gone to war. Been there, well, in the service towards the tail end of the Vietnam War, and then at the very beginning of Desert Storm. So I have missed any kind of war because by the time Desert Storm came in, that's when they start saying, okay, females can now go to war. So I've been blessed with what I went through. I have not gone through that. But just listening to the guys and trying to connect and service disabilities, sometimes it is a lot of psychological. And they and here in Cincinnati, I know they do a lot more than other places. So yeah, you're talking about keeping connection, volunteering for this or that. And so just being a veteran and just going to the veterans and even those I meet outside of the VA, sometimes there's just a connection.
Yeah.
And yeah, and sometimes, like I said, the buddy system. So what you had to say is yes, it is on different levels you don't always think about. That there's something and it does help. And with me having a home care person, it helps me. I didn't realize it until you were talking. With her coming 3 times a week, it does help because she does help like doing the dishes or help change sheets for me, whatever. And sometimes she's got to listen to me do all the talking and everything. But yeah, there's that connection because I've noticed when she's not here, even if she just shows up for an hour, it gives me an excuse to really get up and do something. And so when she is here, oh, okay, do I need to take a shower before she gets here or after she leaves? Depends on appointments, what's going on. But I notice I seem to be a little bit more active when I have her come in the morning
Got it.
for the day.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that does help a lot.
Appreciate your sharing.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Okay, let's see. Charlotte, I believe, is next.
Appreciate you for your talk tonight. And I want to offer myself and my service to help anybody that needs help, cleaning, whatever. As you know, right now I don't have transportation, and the only way is by bus or however someone will pick me up. But whatever I can do, I'm willing and able to do whatever I can for anybody in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, anybody? Yes, Ellie.
You were talking about the, different ways we can minister and we can, change our trajectory, in our lives. And, I hear a lot of people talk about, manifestation and how we can do that, ways we can do that. And, people think that that's some big thing that we have to know how to do and it's some spectacular thing. No, we can just say, I'm going to have a good day today. Speaking intention, and then it's going to manifest. So something that small, that focus will change the trajectory of how that day's going to be. It was brought up today about, depression, a lot. And, you think that, someone has to be in bed or in a corner somewhere to be depressed. No, you can be walking and perfectly functional. And, be depressed about whatever's going on. I know Donovan has brought up more times than I can count of, you know, I used to be able to do such and such, whether that's from age or whether, because of the strokes, the traumatic brain injuries, or, things like that. It's like, I didn't really think about those things until they said that. And it's like, yeah, I used to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Now I can only do X. Okay, so I can either figure out how to do that or think of something else to do, to keep my mind busy or whatnot. And you were talking about ways of ministering. In the Jewish communities, they have what's known as the tzedakah box in their places of worship or synagogues. And it's an offering box that they put in the back. So in a lot of Christian churches or places of worship, they pass the plate around. And in the places of worship in the synagogues or the Jewish places of worship, it's just in the back. So that, basically it's between you and the divine, how much you put in there. And that's it. And then like every Friday is usually what they call prep day. Like you prep for the Sabbath. And in many Jewish communities, the older women, whether they be moms or crones, will get together with the younger women and show and cook all day to help prepare for the Sabbath. And in bigger families, they do that too. But I noticed that a lot in the Jewish communities. I lived in Seattle for many, many years, close to a Jewish community. And sometimes I would just go down to the local market and people watch. And you would definitely know a Jewish family or Jewish people from non-Jewish people, because you'd see all the Jewish people go in, like, I don't know, groups of people, and they would be talking. Okay, we need to get this, we need to get that, we need to get challah. Oh, we need to get, specific things to do specific meals. And it was a breath of fresh air almost, because you go to work, you come home, you go to work and come home, you go to work and come home, and that's it, that's the mindset. But then here's this group of people that are looking forward. Oh, we need to get this and go to so and so's house so we can make this dish and so we can fellowship for tomorrow. So it's a totally different vibe, energy, raising your frequency. um and I mean, I notice a lot of pagan communities do the same thing, have that vibe. And there's other volunteers. You were talking about babysitters. Well, I know many volunteers, many women that go into the NICU centers and the ICU centers to hold babies, that need that comfort. I mean, you've probably seen them at the hospital if you go. So, I mean, that's another ministry that women can do,
Yeah.
or men, but I see mainly women do it. Another ministry that, we don't think about as that, but you were talking about it and it came to mind, was AA or NA. They do that. People go, they need support. They get support. A lot of them have mentors. So, that's a type of ministry.
Yes.
Um, you know, and you were mentioning, candle magic, or not candle magic, but meditation, but candle magic or intention, lighting a candle for something, comes to mind. To be able to do a meditation or gratitude even. I know many friends who just light a candle and sit, and a little tea light, and are, have gratitude the duration of that candle, listening to music to quiet their mind. And it's like, however long the tea light takes to burn, but it's something that they do every day, to bring that peace, to them. So, you had mentioned, simple things that we could do. Um,
Thank you.
Ride share is another one, as you were saying, medical appointments, you know, people needing rides for those places.
Thank you. I'm going to add them to my list in this talk. I appreciate you. Okay. Dear God, we thank you for all the power you've given each one of us to make changes in this world. We thank you for having brought us together today to share as a community, to care as a community, to joy for the good news when it comes. Thank you for watching over us as we depart from here. Help us to be where we should be, when we should be, to bring your good about. Help us to feel your nudges and to have faith in them. And help us to trust our own calling and our ability to lift this place up, even in small actions. We thank you for guiding us and gifting us as we depart from here and walk through this world. And we thank you for bringing us all back again soon, to joy, to share, to laugh, to pray. We give you full credit for the good in our lives. We say thank you, thank you, thank you, and amen.